Ladies and gentlemen, delighted to be joined by the progressive soapbox himself, Jamarl Thomas, who, along with others, has been in the news lately through no fault of his own. How you doing, Jamal?
I'm doing all right, my man. How's it going?
Good. I've been busy, but wanted to spotlight some folks, and I think you called it our sandbox this afternoon, who I don't know. I don't know if you've ever read the book 1984, but I think we're
Yes, well, or at least I've seen the movie. Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of there. So could you kind of just take the audience through as early as you want, either this week or what's been going on with YouTube and your channel, because I know that they've kind of messed with you before.
Yeah.
What happened? What's been the buildup, and then what happened this week?
So this week, we're doing an interview for the show, right? And we have a gentleman on. We're talking about Myanmar. And at the end of that interview, I, for whatever particular reason, hit my mailbox, and there's a message from YouTube. And the message basically boils down to, "Hey, we're sorry. We had to cut you out of our payment program, or whatever the thing is." And it says, "Click here to figure out why." And it says, "We understand this is painful, and we understand this is hurts, but we were carefully looking at the videos and stuff like that." That's not. And so it's harmful content. So my first thought was, "Fuck, you talking about? What harmful content are you talking about?" I clicked the button, and it just says the exact same thing. Basically, you have harmful content. The catch is how they define harmful, right? It's Orwellian. You like we're saying 1984. It's so Orwellian because their argument is basically, well, if you're showing anything that, let's say, includes reality, war, if you're talking about news, if you're talking about culture, all of those things are subject to basically be eliminated. And so it's so broad in regards to what they're talking about. They try to shoehorn that stuff under the term harm. Who is it harming? There's nobody that's being harmed on that. It's defamatory on its face. And so you have this thing of like, they're not even identifying the videos. They're just saying, overtly clean your channel. But they're not going to tell you what. And the reason I make the point that it's somewhat Orwellian, because I really think the reason that they're using harm has more to do with platform versus publisher, right? Because if you're making an argument that you don't particularly like a channel because of its political designation, you run afoul of being a publisher, which means you're making a political choice on a particular website, not because the person is harmful, not because the person is saying even anything false, for that matter, but entirely because you don't either want that particular thing for economic reasons, or you don't want it for political reasons. And I'm inclined to believe both of those things are true at the same time. And so it's aggravating to me because reality should be a defense to any of this. You know what I mean? Like if I'm making an argument and I say, "Hey, we're selling weapons in Syria," that's true. Now, no, Jake Tapper is not going to say that. Jake Tapper will run from that particular thing, but it is true. At the very least, we're doing so in Obama. And so it's like the being able to describe reality as it is, even when you can back it up, even when you can, substantiate your claims and everything else, it seems to be not enough. And that's utterly bizarre. And I would say even you, for example, when your video that got taken down, and that's of the Capitol riot, you holding a camera, watching the riot take place. And YouTube will be like, "Yeah, we're taking it down because that's violent or that's harmful content." Do you think it was harmful when the people were doing it? And regardless of whether it's harmful from the standpoint of, I don't even know what harm means in that context, because you're basically showing something that happened. And if you're going to make this argument that showing something that happens is harmful, then pretty much mainstream media with the bleeds that lead stuff. And by the way, this doesn't apply to mainstream media. They can run the exact same story with the exact same footage and they wouldn't do squat to them. It's, yeah.
By these standards, I mean, I'd love to know what you think, but I don't know if it wasn't TV in the 1950s and 60s and it was YouTube, could the Vietnam War protests,
right,
would that footage be up? Would MLK, Selma Bridge, all of that? I mean, there was a lot of violence.
That was dark.
Usually perpetrated by the police.
Yeah.
But by YouTube standards, this is harmful to our users, harmful to our advertisers. I mean, in my view, let's just cut out the facade. It's not the users they're worried about. It's the harm to the advertisers.
Exactly.
But the thing that I find mind-boggling they haven't given you specific videos. They didn't really give others specific videos. But then Ford Fisher, who is
he's a journalist,
similar to Status Coup. By their explanation, they were demonetizing channels like Ford's because he wasn't adding the proper context into his videos. Well, I don't know. I'd like to know.
That's why they heard him?
Yeah, I'd like to know if you are covering a mob riot where at any moment, frankly, I don't think it's dramatic to say, when Ford was there, when my cameraman was there on the Capitol attacks day, you don't know if gunshots are about to fire. You have no idea. I mean, this could get completely out of control, much worse at any moment because you have a whole lot of people there that are in military garb, that have weapons. Yeah. Are you supposed to leave, go get that professor who could come back and add the context? I mean, it's beyond Big Brother. It is so clear that this is not about a safe environment. This is about sanitizing the news to maintain a certain status quo.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It undermines, because I think all things being equal from their standpoint, they would be perfectly content doing cat videos. Like, it's a company. So their mindset is, how do we make as much profit as possible? That's it, right? And there may be political issues where these guys are working in tandem with Democrats or something like that, or they're feeling constrained by the political space that's putting pressure on them to conform. But the pressure that's put on to them to conform has more to do with this kind of breakdown of our politics, if that makes sense. It's like you get a situation where your country has to deal with all sorts of problems, all sorts of difficulties. You have people at each other's throats, and you find that the resources get shipped further and further to the top. Now, if you are in your society, you have to explain that. How are you the exceptional nation to have 450,000 people die, right? It's not something that they necessarily want people to air out. This differential between what they say we are, making that point. And by showing that point, they're like, whoa, that's too edgy. We don't want you to show the reality of things in comparison to what we are saying the reality is. So from a Google standpoint or mainstream news standpoint, mainstream news don't necessarily want the competition. And yeah, I really do believe that it's one of those things where it's this kind of corporate and state power dovetailing on this very specific issue. There's nothing on my channel that's harmful. That's bogus. And there's nothing like they would even need to define what harmful is. And the problem is that their harm is so broad that it covers anything, right? It's like somebody gets into an argument. That's too much. Somebody shows a riot, let's say in Ferguson, too much. Like, when do you ever get the opportunity to show reality under those circumstances? And that's just it. I don't think they're acting as publishers. And I think that's the point more than anything else. So not to mention the theft of money on top of that. Because the moment that they shut your channel down, your ability to get paid goes away too. And I mean money that you've already made. So all of those channels that they basically shut down, they're not going to give those people, unless they've changed something over the last several months. Those people are just going to steal their money.
And to be clear, so the audience knows, some people came in late. Jamarl's Thomas, along with a whole host of others, was demonetized, which means no super chats, no ability to earn revenue. You can still go live, but you essentially can't make money. And if your revenue is significantly derived from YouTube, you're kind of screwed. I'll let you talk about what this does to your channel, but this is not some part-time thing for you. I mean, I feel like every time I go to the bathroom, you're live with a new video. So this is extremely harmful. And the other thing I'll say, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they can't have their cake and eat it too. On one end, they're saying we're not publishers, we're just a platform. But on the other end, they're playing global editor. What is news and what isn't news? What is harmful and what isn't harmful? Well, if you're not a publisher, then you're just a platform where content exists. And other than, clear crimes, which would be calling for violence, which we have courts, we have agencies for those things. You're just a platform for you. That's why it's called YouTube, to have a say, whether it's news, commentary, whatever it is. So they're saying they're not a publisher because they don't want to be regulated, but they're acting as a publisher by basically purging under the guise of right-wing extremism.
Right.
They're purging people who do videos on. I mean, I've seen videos you've done on like, I don't know.
I do everything. Foreign policy.
Foreign policy. Yeah.
Yeah. It works.
It's really, really disgusting. And I will say, to me, there's a clear correlation between you have a rapid increase in favorability of Medicare for all. You have a rapid increase of favorability for aggressive climate action, not just among young people, older people too. You have a rapid increase. Let's get out of Afghanistan. Let's get out of these wars. You have a rapid, I wouldn't say increase, but you do have more discussion over things like a populist general strike.
Right.
And why are those things expanding in popularity? Because non-corporate outlets are informing people about them.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, those outlets are harmful. And by the way, this channel hasn't been demonetized yet. Frankly, it's pretty damn risky for me to even talk to these criminals, Graham Elwood and Jamarl Thomas.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, curl into a ball and, watch everyththing I say, and I can't speak with other content hosts. It's ridiculous. Do we have a democracy or do we not? Your turn.
It's weird because Section 230, it allows the ability for a company to make a choice on whether or not content is harmful. So if it's something specific like, let's go kill Bob on Tuesday, well, that's illegal by definition. Not just that, it allows them to take that off without them necessarily being considered a publisher. However, if you're talking about a political distinction, that's different. There's a difference, right? It's not, they're trying to use harm in this kind of Orwellian way because they want to slide under that. And the fact of the matter is they shouldn't be allowed to slide under that. Like if you are talking about, if you're talking about killing somebody, if you're talking about injuring somebody, I could even give a little bit of leeway to this notion of somebody saying something utterly ridiculous that causes a certain degree of harm. Let's say like the Pizzagate stuff. But that's not what they're doing. And, they are basically making the argument that we're getting rid of extremists on the right. Well, I'm not an extremist on the right. I'm not extremist at all. I'm talking about. And like I said, Section 230, it allows the sword and the shield. Fair enough. But that is not absolute. That's not absolute. That is limits in regards to what these companies can get away with. But I still say it's the differential between what they say this country is versus what we're saying it is. And they hate that distinction. If your people had healthcare, if your people had education, if people had a decent minimum wage, I don't think we would be at each other's throats in the way that we are.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.